My daughter-in-law had never been afraid of anything in her life. But that morning, her hands were trembling as she pressed an envelope into mine and whispered, "Pack a bag. You have 24 hours before they come for you." At first, I thought she was overreacting, that something at work had spooked her. But later that night, I overheard something that froze the blood in my veins. That's when I realized her warning was real. The next morning, I left without saying a word, not out of fear, but because I needed time to find out what was really going on. When I finally came back, I was holding something that would destroy every person who had betrayed me. Before I tell you what was inside that envelope, and how I uncovered the truth, comment where you're watching this from, because what happened next will make you question everyone you think you can trust. Let me take you back to the morning that changed everything. My name's Arthur Hale, 68 years old, and I thought I had life all figured out. After my wife, Margaret, passed 3 years ago, I'd built a quiet routine that kept me grounded. Coffee at 6:30 sharp. Read the paper. Maybe do a little work in the garden if the Arizona heat wasn't unbearable yet. Simple habits for a simple man. That Tuesday started like any other. I was sitting at my kitchen table with my favorite mug, the one that says "World's Best Grandpa," the gift my daughter-in-law Clara gave me last Christmas. Funny thing is, she and my son Evan still haven't given me any grandkids to earn the title, but I love the mug anyway. The morning sun spilled through the window while I read about the Diamondbacks' chances this season. Not great, but I've never been the type to give up on my team. Then Clara walked in, and the second I saw her, I knew something was wrong. Now, let me tell you something about Clara. She's been married to my son Evan for 8 years, and she's been a blessing to this family. After Margaret died, the house felt hollow, like a tomb. Clara brought warmth back to it. She works as a financial advisor downtown at First National Bank. Sharp, confident, incredible with numbers. She's the one who helped me sort out my retirement accounts and made sure I wasn't being scammed. She calls me Dad, and over the years I came to rely on her judgment, especially when it came to money. But the woman who stood in my kitchen that morning wasn't the calm, polished Clara I knew. Her hands were shaking uncontrollably, not the kind of nervous twitch you see before a presentation, but the deep, terrified trembling of someone who's seen something they shouldn't have. Her face was pale. She kept glancing over her shoulder, like she was expecting someone to burst in at any second. This woman handled million-dollar investments every day without breaking a sweat, but now she looked like she might collapse. "Dad," she said softly, barely above a whisper, "I need to give you something." From behind her back, she pulled out a plain manila envelope. Written across the front in thick black marker were the words, "You have 24 hours to prepare." My stomach dropped. "Clara, sweetheart, what is this?" She placed the envelope on the table as if it might explode. "I can't explain everything right now," she said, her voice shaking. "It's not safe. But I need you to promise me something." "Anything," I said. "Don't open it until you're completely alone. Don't ask me any questions. And whatever you do." She looked around the kitchen again, making sure no one else was listening. "Don't tell Evan." I stared at her. "Don't tell Evan? My own son? Clara, what's going on? You're scaring the hell out of me." Tears welled in her eyes. "I wish I could tell you, Dad. But right now you have to trust me. Your life depends on it." Before I could say another word, she turned and hurried out of the kitchen. The front door slammed, her car started, and within seconds she was gone. And I just sat there, alone, staring at the envelope beside my half-finished coffee. It felt heavy. Heavier than paper should. I read those words again, "You have 24 hours to prepare," and felt a kind of fear I hadn't known since my army days in Vietnam. Outside, the world looked normal. Mrs. Peterson was walking her little dog. The mail truck rattled down the street. Kids laughed as they headed to school. But inside my house, nothing felt normal anymore. I picked up the envelope with unsteady hands. Whatever was inside, I knew it was going to turn my quiet retirement upside down. And I was right. 20 minutes later, I sat in my home office staring at that envelope. This room held 40 years of my life. Family photos, business awards, reminders of everything I'd built with honesty and hard work. Now this envelope sat among them like a loaded weapon. I finally tore it open. 3 things fell onto my desk. A Greyhound bus ticket to Denver, one way. My name printed clearly. Departure, today. A small black USB drive. And a photograph that made my heart stop. It was me, walking out of First National Bank last Thursday. Taken from across the street. Zoomed in. Clear as day. Someone had been following me. The phone rang and I nearly jumped out of my chair. "Dad." It was Clara. Her voice was tense, urgent. "Clara," I said, my pulse racing. "What the hell is this?" Someone's been taking pictures of me. I know, she said quickly. Listen carefully. Someone's been watching you for weeks. They know your routines, your schedule, everything. But why? I'm just a retired contractor. No, Dad, she said, her voice shifting into that calm, professional tone she used at work. You're still listed as a co-signer on the Hale construction accounts. You still have digital authorization for transfers. My heart sank. Years ago, I'd helped Evan get the business started. I'd left my name on the accounts out of convenience, to make things easier for him. I never thought twice about it. Now Clara's words echoed in my head. They're setting you up, she said. They're going to make it look like you've been moving money illegally. And when it happens, it'll look airtight. Your name, your access, everything. I stared down at the USB drive, its black surface reflecting my face back at me, distorted, shaking. And in that moment, I realized something awful. I wasn't safe anymore. You're still listed as a co-signer on every Hale construction account, Clara said, her voice trembling. Your digital signature still authorizes major financial transfers. A chill rippled through me. When I'd retired 5 years ago, I'd kept my name on the accounts to help Evan manage things. At the time, it seemed harmless, smart even. I don't understand, I said slowly. They're planning to frame you, Clara whispered. They want to make it look like you've been laundering money through the company, transferring dirty funds. And with your signature authority, it'll look completely legitimate. That's ridiculous, I said, my voice breaking. I'd never. I know that, she said quickly. But on paper, it'll tell a different story. An aging man with access to company money, maybe struggling in retirement, maybe not thinking straight. It fits their narrative. The world tilted slightly around me. Decades of honest work, my entire reputation, suddenly hanging by a thread in someone else's hands. Clara, I managed, how do you even know all this? She swallowed hard. Because I work at the bank, Dad. I see the transactions, I overhear things. Yesterday, I caught part of a conversation I wish I hadn't. What kind of conversation? The kind where your name came up, with words like investigation and arrest warrant. Her voice cracked. Dad, they're coming for you tomorrow morning. Early. They think they already have the proof. My eyes went to the black USB drive sitting untouched on my desk. Whatever it contained, I wasn't sure I wanted to find out. Clara, this doesn't make sense, I said. I know, she breathed. That's why you have to go. Tonight. The photograph of me leaving the bank lay beside the bus ticket, both staring up like silent accusations. Whoever was behind this had been watching, waiting, planning to erase everything I'd built. And if Clara was right, they'd do it tomorrow. I looked around my office one last time, at Margaret's smiling face in our wedding photo, the framed awards that suddenly meant nothing, and the tiny flash drive that might hold the key to my ruin. For the first time in my life, I was completely lost. By nightfall, I'd made my decision. Evan needed to know. My son deserved to hear the truth. He'd been acting normal all day, came home from work around 6, kissed Clara hello, asked what was for dinner. Just an ordinary evening. But Clara's warning wouldn't leave my head, and that photo burned in my thoughts like a brand. Evan had always been a good kid. Ambitious, sure, sometimes too focused on growing the business, but he'd never hurt me. We'd built Hale Construction together, and when I retired, I'd handed him the keys with pride. He respected me. He respected what we'd built. Or at least I thought he did. Around 9 o'clock, I heard his voice coming from his office. The door was shut, but the walls in our old ranch house were thin. His tone was clipped, cold, all business. I thought I'd wait until he was done, then go in and tell him everything Clara had said. Maybe we could figure this out together. But as I got closer, I started to catch the actual words. Don't worry about the old man, Evan said. I froze mid-step. The old man. He couldn't mean me. He'll take the blame, Evan continued. He won't even see it coming. My heart started hammering in my chest. Maybe I was misunderstanding. Maybe he was talking about a client or some subcontractor. Anyone but me. Then came the words that shattered everything. By tomorrow night, he'll be in custody, and I'll have full control of the company. The hallway seemed to spin. I grabbed the wall to steady myself. 40 years he's been in charge, Evan said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. Well, not anymore. The best part? He'll never guess it was his own son who set him up. The air left my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The man I'd raised, trusted, and built everything for. He was the one betraying me. I couldn't move. My own son, my flesh and blood, was calmly talking about destroying me. The forged signatures are flawless, he said with a low chuckle. Even Clara believes they're real and she works at the bank. Then he laughed, a sound I'd never heard from him before. Cool. Calculated. Cool. Dad always said trust is the cornerstone of business, Evan said. Guess he was wrong about that. After that, I don't remember much. I must have walked back to my bedroom on autopilot. Must have sat down on the edge of the bed where Margaret and I had slept for 35 years. I just remember staring at the wall, feeling something inside me wither and die. The boy I'd taught to throw a baseball, the teenager I'd taken to job sites every summer, the man I'd trusted with my company, my legacy, was about to let me rot in a prison cell for crimes I didn't commit. And he was enjoying it. My hands trembled as I dragged out an old suitcase from the closet. I didn't take much. Some clothes, my prescriptions, and the envelope Clara had given me. Everything else suddenly felt like it belonged to strangers. As I folded my shirts, I could still hear Evan's muffled voice down the hall, steady and businesslike, still plotting, still dismantling the life I'd spent 4 decades building. 40 years of trust gone in one night, I muttered under my breath, echoing his own words back to myself. By 4 a.m. I was packed. The house was silent now, Evan and Clara asleep in their room, probably dreaming of futures that no longer had any place for me. I took one last look around the kitchen where Clara and I had shared coffee just 12 hours earlier. Everything looked the same, but nothing was the same. I picked up my suitcase and stepped out of the only home I'd known since Margaret passed. If my son wanted me gone, fine. I was gone. The Greyhound station at dawn was exactly what you'd expect. Buzzing fluorescent lights, burnt coffee strong enough to melt paint, and tired faces that all looked like they were running from something. I fit right in. I paid cash for my ticket. Denver one way, just like the one Clara had included in that envelope. The driver, a heavy-set man with kind eyes, helped me stash my suitcase in the cargo hold without asking questions. I appreciated that. The bus rolled out of Phoenix as the sun crept over the desert, flooding the sand with gold and orange, the kind of sunrise Margaret used to stop and admire. I pressed my forehead to the window and watched the city shrink in the distance, wondering if I'd ever see it again. For the next 8 hours, I had nothing to do but think. And God, did I think. I thought about holding Evan for the first time in the hospital. Tiny, perfect, my pride and joy. I thought about teaching him to hammer his first nail at 12, how his grin had lit up his whole face. I thought about the day I made him my business partner, how we shook hands in that office he was now using to destroy me. How long had he been planning this? Months? Years? Had every family dinner been a lie? Every I love you dad rehearsed? The bus made stops in Flagstaff, Albuquerque, and Colorado Springs. People got on and off, living their ordinary lives, while I sat there feeling like mine had been turned inside out. A young mother with twin boys reminded me of Clara, back when she was still trying to get pregnant. An elderly couple holding hands reminded me of Margaret and me. Everything reminded me of what I'd lost in one night. We reached Denver around 2 in the afternoon. The sky hung low and gray. I found a cheap motel called the Mile High Inn, the kind of place that rents rooms by the week and doesn't care who you are or why you're there. The kid at the front desk barely looked up from his phone as he handed me the key to room 237. He had purple hair, a lip ring, and the air of someone who'd seen it all. The room was exactly what $40 a night gets you. Thin walls, thinner carpet, and a lingering smell that suggested the last guest was a chain-smoking cat owner. But it had a bed, a door that locked, and an old computer on the desk that supposedly still worked. I sat down, pulled out the USB drive I'd been treating like a live grenade, and plugged it in. My hands were shaking again. What appeared on that flickering screen made my stomach twist. File after file of financial transactions from Hale Construction's operating accounts, dozens of them, stretching back 6 months. Transfers of $50,000, $100,000, sometimes $300,000. All routed to offshore accounts in the Caymans and Switzerland. And every single one bore my digital signature. Perfect forgeries. So perfect that if I hadn't known better, I'd have believed I signed them myself. $2.3 million. Gone. Wandered. In my name. I scrolled through the dates, trying to remember where I'd even been when these so-called transactions happened. Doctor's visits, grocery runs, poker nights with old construction buddies, living a quiet retired life while someone used my name to commit federal crimes. The phone on the nightstand rang, slicing through the silence. I jumped like a gunshot had gone off. No one should have known I was here. No one. I let it ring 3 times before picking up. Hello. My voice was raw. Dad, thank God, you made it safely. Clara. Clara? How did you even know where I am? We need to talk, she said, her voice calm but urgent. I know what you're seeing right now. And I know you're questioning everything, including me. She was right. After those forged signatures, I didn't know who to trust anymore. Clara, how did you know I'd come to this motel? Because I planned for it, she said softly. Not like Evan did. I've been trying to protect you. I looked into safe places around Denver, cheap ones that don't ask for ID or credit cards. When you left this morning, I called ahead to make sure you'd have somewhere secure. You've been planning this? I asked, my grip tightening on the receiver. For weeks, she admitted. I've been watching Evan. Something's been wrong for months. Late-night meetings with men in expensive suits I've never seen before. They show up after hours at the office. I don't know what's being said, but your name keeps coming up, along with words like accounts and signatures. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked. Because I wanted to be wrong, she whispered. Because I didn't want to believe my husband could do something this terrible to the man who's been like a father to me. Her words broke something loose inside me. After everything Evan had done, hearing Clara call me dad hit harder than I expected. What am I supposed to do now? I asked quietly. The files on that USB drive, she said, they're forgeries. Every last one of them. I know because I work at the bank. Understand financial systems, and I've been doing my own investigation. There are inconsistencies that prove these transactions are manufactured. Oh, flickered for the first time in days. You can prove I'm innocent. I can, but we need to be smart. We need solid evidence that'll hold up in court. We need to catch Evan admitting what he's done, preferably on record. Clara, this sounds dangerous. What if he discovers you're helping me? He won't. As far as Evan knows, I believe his story about you having a breakdown and running away. He thinks I'm devastated and supporting him completely. Are you sure you want to risk this? Her voice turned fierce. Dad, you're the only real family I have left. When I married Evan, I thought I was getting a husband and father-in-law. Instead, I got something better. A dad who actually cares about me, treats me with respect, never lets me down. Tears started forming. Clara, Evan may be my husband, but you're my family, and I protect my family. What's the plan? Stay put one more day. Let me gather evidence. From here, tomorrow evening, come back. We'll set a trap for Evan and end this. What if police are watching the house? They're not. Evan convinced them you're a flight risk who fled to Mexico. Bought us time. You really think we can prove he's behind this? Dad, I know we can. Trust me, I thought about her voice, full of determination and love. God, trust you. Good. I'll call tomorrow with details. And Dad, we're going to get through this together. After she hung, I felt something I hadn't experienced since this nightmare began. Hope Clara was right. We were family, and family protects each other. I started planning my return to Phoenix. Thursday morning found me on another Greyhound, this time heading home. But I wasn't the same broken man who'd fled Phoenix 2 days earlier. I had a plan now, and more importantly, I had an ally. The first stop was Michael Thompson's law office, downtown. Michael and I had known each other for 30 years. He'd handled all the legal work when I incorporated Hale. Construction helped me through Margaret's estate planning, even represented me in a few contract disputes over the years. If anyone could make sense of this mess, it was him. His office hadn't changed much. Same oak furniture, same law books lining the walls, same reassuring smell of leather and coffee. Michael looked older than I remembered, more gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes, but his handshake was still firm. Arthur, you look like Hal, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Claire called yesterday, said you were in some kind of trouble. I spent the next hour laying out everything. The envelope, the surveillance photo, the USB drive with its damning financial records, Evans' phone conversation, my escape to Denver. Michael listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and whistled low. Is federal fraud territory, Arthur. Money laundering, forgery, conspiracy. We're talking serious prison time for whoever's behind this. Can you prove I'm innocent with what you've shown me? Absolutely. He tapped the USB drive. These digital signatures have forensic markers that will prove they're forgeries. The timing of the transactions doesn't match your documented whereabouts, and that surveillance photo actually works in your favor. It shows you were being watched, which supports the frame-up theory. For the first time in days, I felt my shoulders relax. So what do? We set a trap. Get Evan to incriminate himself on record. Contact Detective Rodriguez at Phoenix PD. He's handled white-collar cases for me before. Good man, honest cop. Friday morning, I walked into the Hale construction offices like I owned the place, which technically I still did. Evan was at his desk looking through some contracts. When he saw me, his face went through a series of expressions. Surprised, guilt, then that fake concern he perfected over the years. Dad, what are you doing here? I thought Clara said you'd had some kind of breakdown, that you'd run off somewhere. Just needed some time to think. Son, clear my head. I sat down across from him, trying to look defeated. You were right about retirement being harder than I expected. His relief was almost comical. Of course, Dad. It's a big adjustment, but don't worry. A bit. Handling everything here. The business is in good hands. I know it is. That's why I want to make it official. I pulled out a folder Michael had prepared, some final paperwork to transfer my remaining authority over to you. Make the transition complete. Evan's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Really? You want to do that now? No time like the present. I'm too old for this stress. Anyway, he practically snatched the papers from my hands, scanning through them quickly. What he was seeing were carefully crafted documents that would authorize additional fraudulent transfers. Transfers that would be impossible to explain away once the police arrived. This looks perfect, Dad. Really comprehensive. He was already reaching for his pen. This makes everything clean and simple. No loose ends. No loose ends. Just like he'd said on that phone call 2 nights ago. You sure about this, Evan? Once you sign, there's no going back. I'm sure. His signature flowed across the page with confident strokes. This is exactly what the business needs. He just finished signing the last document when I heard the sound I'd been waiting for. Heavy footsteps in the hallway outside. The office door burst open. Phoenix Police. Nobody moved. The office door exploded. Inward. Phoenix Police. Detective Rodriguez stormed in with 3 officers. Guns drawn but lowered. Evan jumped up from his desk, papers scattering his face, cycling through confusion, panic, then pure terror. What the hell is this? Evan Hale, you're under arrest. Rodriguez's voice cut through the room like steel. Fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to commit federal crimes. Dad. Evan's voice cracked as he looked at me. Dad, what did you do? I stood up, slowly, feeling 40 years of trust crumbling. What I should have done the night I heard you planning to destroy me. The color drained from his face. Heard that phone call. Every word, son. The old man will take the fall. You won't even see it coming. Rodriguez moved forward with handcuffs. Turn around, mister. Now, that's when Clara walked in. Arthur, what's happening? She saw Evan being handcuffed and gasped. Oh my God, what did you do to him? Your husband's been arrested for embezzlement, Rodriguez said. Clara rushed to my side, her face full of concern. Dad, are you okay? Did he hurt you? I knew something was wrong when you disappeared. Clara, I can explain. Evan started. Explain. What? Clara's voice was fierce, protective. How you tried to frame your own father? How you made him run away in fear. I felt a surge of gratitude. At least Clara was still on my side. Rodriguez started leading Evan toward the door. We need to go. That's when Evan suddenly stopped walking. He turned back with desperate, angry eyes. You know what? I'm not going down alone for this. Evan, don't make this worse, Clara. What? Worse you want to talk about? Worse. His voice turned vicious as he stared at Clara. Why don't you tell him the truth, sweetheart? Clara stepped closer to me protectively. Dad, don't listen to him. He's desperate. We'll say anything. Tell him how you betrayed me. Evan shouted. Tell him you're the one who came up with. He hesitated, looking between Clara and me with something like fear. The one who what? Evan? I asked. Evan's voice dropped to a whisper, his eyes never leaving Clara's face. The one who planned it all. The room went dead silent. Clara's protective stance never wavered, but something flickered in her eyes. "That's insane," she said firmly. "Daddy's trying to drag me down with him." But Evan wasn't finished. "You think I'm lying? Ask her about the offshore accounts. Ask her who researched the banking laws. Ask her who made the anonymous call to police." Clara's hand found my arm, squeezing gently. "Don't listen to him, Dad. I would never hurt." I gently removed Clara's hand from my arm. That grip felt different too, controlling. Clara stepped back. "Dad, you're not listening to him, are you?" "Evan, tell me what you mean." Evan straightened despite the handcuffs. "It came to me 6 months ago. Said we could frame you and take everything." "That's insane." Clara's voice was firm. "I saved you." Detective Rodriguez pulled out his phone. "Mrs. Hale, the anonymous tip came from your number. Of course, I was worried about Dad's mental state. Thought he was having a breakdown." "What? About the inheritance research?" Evan pressed. Rodriguez consulted his notes. "You researched inheritance laws when a spouse is convicted. I was protecting Dad's assets. I was being responsible." She turned to me with caring eyes. "Dad, they're twisting everything I did to help. How did you know exactly when to give me that envelope?" I saw the signs of enacting, strange fragments of conversations still playing her role perfectly. "You expect me to believe all that? It's the truth. I'm the only one who's been honest." I pulled out a small digital recorder. "Actually, Clara, let's hear some real honesty." Her eyes fixed on the device, something flickering across her face. "After Denver, I got suspicious. I installed recording devices throughout the house." I looked at her steadily. "Thursday night, you made a phone call from the kitchen." Clara's face went rigid. "You were talking to someone, planning final details." I pressed play. Clara's voice filled the room, cold and clear. "We're almost there. Once my husband goes to prison, that naive old fool will give me everything. He trusts me completely. Thinks I'm his savior. The poor man has no idea I've been setting this up for months." Silence. Clara stared at the recorder, her face cycling through shock, then something much darker. "You recorded me?" "I recorded a criminal conspiracy." The caring expression transformed into something ugly and vicious. "You think you're so clever?" Her voice was completely different now, cold, sharp. "You pathetic old man. There's the real Clara." "Yes, there I am." She laughed cruelly. "Do you want to know how much I've hated living in this house, pretending to care about your boring stories, your dead wife, your pathetic company?" Each word was like a slap. "I've been planning this for over a year, you fool. Every smile, every eye. Love you, Dad, every concerned call. It was all an act, and you ate it up like the lonely old man you are." "Clara, don't use that caring voice now. The best part was watching you trust me while I destroyed your life piece by piece. The look on your face when you opened that envelope." She smiled with genuine pleasure. "It was beautiful. I felt sick. How could you live with yourself easily? You were supposed to rot in prison while I inherited everything and started my real life without this boring family, this deadened town." Her eyes were completely cold. "Do you know how many nights I planned exactly how to frame you? How I fantasized about watching you get arrested? You made it so easy, trusting me. I treated you like my own daughter, and I used every bit of that trust to destroy you." She leaned forward, whispering the saddest part. "You still don't understand, and how much I despise everything about you." Detective Rodriguez stepped forward. "Think we've heard enough." Detective Rodriguez had heard enough. "Clara Hale, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and orchestrating a criminal enterprise." As they led both Clara and Evan away in handcuffs, Clara turned back one last time. "You think you've won, old man? You'll spend the rest of your pathetic life knowing that the person you love most was your enemy." "No, Clara," I said quietly. "I'll spend it knowing I finally saw the truth." The office fell silent. After they were gone, I sat alone at the conference table where I'd built my business for 40 years, surrounded by the awards and photos that suddenly felt like relics from someone else's life. Michael Thompson put his hand on my shoulder. "Arthur, I'm sorry you had to go through this." "So am I, but I'm glad it's over." 3 months later, I sat in The courthouse as the judge read the verdicts. Evan received 8 years for fraud and money laundering. Clara got 12 years for conspiracy and orchestrating the entire scheme. But the biggest revelation came during the investigation. The person Clara had been talking to in that recorded phone call wasn't just an accomplice, was her lover, a financial advisor named Marcus Webb who worked at a competing firm. They'd been having an affair for 2 years, planning not just to steal my money but to disappear together once. Evan and I were both out of the picture. Marcus received 10 years as a co-conspirator. As I watched Clara being led away after sentencing, she looked back at me one final time. There was no remorse in her eyes, no regret, just cold calculation. Even in defeat, that night I sat in my kitchen with a cup of coffee, looking around the house that felt different now, empty but also clean. The poison was gone. I thought about the 8 years Clara had lived under my roof, sharing family dinners, celebrating holidays, calling me dad. Every moment had been a performance, every kindness calculated. She'd studied me like a predator studies prey, learning my weaknesses, my trust, my love for family. But here's what I learned. Evil can be patient, can wear a kind face, can live right next to you for years without you knowing. But truth has a way of surfacing. Injustice, though sometimes slow, finds its way. I'd lost a son to greed and a daughter-in-law to deception. But I'd gained something too. The knowledge that I could still recognize right from wrong when it mattered most. At 68, I'd proven to myself that I wasn't the naive old fool Clara thought I was. The construction business was gone, sold to pay legal fees and restitution. The house felt too big and too full of bad memories. But I had my freedom, my integrity, and the satisfaction of knowing that the people who tried to destroy me were exactly where they belonged. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones planning your downfall. Sometimes the person trying to save you is actually the one who put you in danger in the first place. And sometimes when you think you've lost everything, you discover you still have the most important thing of all. Looking back on this nightmare, I realize God has a way of protecting us even when we can't see it. If I hadn't overheard that phone call, if I hadn't trusted my instincts, I might still be rotting in prison for crimes I never committed. This true story taught me that evil doesn't always announce itself with horns and pitchforks. Sometimes it comes with a warm smile, calls you dad, and sits at your dinner table for 8 years. Clara fooled everyone, even me, for too long. But here's what I want you to understand from my grandpa stories. Trust your gut. When something feels wrong, it usually is. I ignored those little warning signs for months because I wanted to believe in the goodness of family. That almost destroyed me. God gave us instincts for a reason. Is the hardest lesson. Sometimes the people we love most are capable of the greatest betrayal. But that doesn't mean we stop loving. It means we love wisely. This true story isn't about becoming suspicious of everyone. It's about staying alert while keeping your heart open. I've shared my grandpa's stories for years, but this one cuts deepest. 68, I learned that wisdom isn't about. It's about paying attention. Claire counted on my trust, my loneliness, my desire for family. She almost won. Thank God she didn't.